Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jason Hardy, Elite Barbecue Smokers, and this is Barbecue Roundtable. We got some great guests today, and we're gonna have a good time talking about it. We're gonna find out what everybody thinks about barbecue and what does it mean to them. But to start with, the first guest we're gonna have on tonight, Mr. Chris, introduce yourself.
All right, man. Chris Fulmer, Ultimate Tailgaters BBQ, and I'm glad to be on the show tonight.
He is. Now, before we get anything else, I want to let y'all know something. Chris was probably one of the first guys that had a barbecue talk show. We're talking about this a little bit the day before the show and stuff here. But how long ago was that, Chris?
I think it was like 8-9 years ago, maybe. I was thinking about it after we got off the phone earlier. It was Barbecue Superstars. Daryl Mast was the guy that did it. And then I think Jim Burr kind of took over, started doing the show. And then I think Jim did it for a couple of years, and I took over from him, started doing it. We always did it on Monday nights. I think I was 7 to 8, or maybe sometimes 8 to 9. Well, I'm sorry. I think it was like 6 to 8, and then sometimes we did 7 to 9. But like you, talk a lot of barbecue, and everybody knows I'm a big sports fan. I love my Gamecocks. We talk college football a lot in the fall, but talk a lot of barbecue. Got a lot of guys on, and just like you, met a lot of people, out there on the barbecue trail, and I enjoyed doing it. Just unfortunately got a lot busier on the catering side and didn't have the time anymore, but it was fun doing it.
Man, you used to be able to. Now, your show at that time wasn't video. That was you had to basically call in.
That's right.
And you had to kind of call in and do some different stuff with that one. And it was on. Was it on a live stream?
It was. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but basically, I did have a laptop like we do right now, and I could see the calls coming in. And I think sometimes it would identify who it was, but most of everybody calling in though was just, obviously calling in on cell phone. And I had some crank calls sometimes too. One guy got me pretty good. I won't say it on the show, but he got me. I think Jason Singletary tells the story, but he got me pretty good, unfortunately. And I had people calling in from all over. I mean, when Daryl did it, I guess he had somewhat of an audience. So, we have people calling, and I guess you do too. But I mean, there's people all over the country calling in. Not necessarily people that maybe a lot of people listening now with a lot of your barbecue names around South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, all that. But there's people from California, New York, Canada. I mean, we have people all over. It was crazy. But yeah, a guy got me. He took me hook, line, and sinker one time. So that was my one time I ever he got me. So
yeah, man, it was that was crazy back then because, like I said, it wasn't no video, so everything was it was completely phone calls.
Oh yeah.
And so and I think I called in one time. I think after Darlington, I won Darlington. I think you had me on your show then.
Yep, probably so. I tried to, like you, I tried to get people on that had recently won a contest or, talk to them about the contest, congratulate them. A lot of times I go through the previous week's score sheet, KCBS, had a contest where it may be, and, highlight maybe the top 3 guys, top 3 calls, and highlight the grand and the reserve grand, try to give those guys or ladies a little recognition. SCBA, SBN as well, kind of highlight, in the points chase, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. That was good.
So I've been cooking for a while, several years, but I think you probably been cooking longer than I have.
Yeah, I'm an old guy, Jason. I'm an old fart. So everybody always asks when we start cooking, but I think it was about 2009, 2010 is when we first got into barbecue. Of course, I'm a big Gamecock fan, love the tailgate. So we did a lot of tailgating, and we did some tailgate contests. Actually, there was actually tailgate contests, range that may be. We actually won the National Tailgating Championship back about 10, 11 years ago. It was in Atlanta. And then we won the SEC Tailgate Challenge by Texas Pete, like back-to-back years, and got to go to the SEC Championship game and put us up 3 nights. So, that's how we kind of got involved with it back 06, 07, 08. And then somehow I saw something about a barbecue contest. And we cooked, like a lot of people, we cooked some local stuff, a lot of stuff that was backyard, local judges and all, and did pretty good. And, kind of got the bug. And then I saw something about Boss Hog was actually my first. So, here I'm going to go cook a KCBS contest first time. And hell, I didn't even know what a damn money muscle was, man. I had no clue what it was. I was like a lot of guys. Oh, I can cook pretty good and all this, and I got this and that. And I got down there and got my butt handed to me, man. I was like, wow. And so, first couple of years, like a lot of people, we didn't do so well. We cooked local stuff and all and did good. And then I think we started cooking SCBA. But just like a lot of people out there, I learned, find the people that are winning, get you some good friends. Everybody's not going to maybe share everything, but people will help you out. They will. The good ones out there, the teams like yourself, they'll share info with you. They'll help you out. Nobody likes to see people just get beat down every week and no calls. I mean, you want to help those people, and I feel good about that now that we've started. We've last 12, 13 years, we've done pretty well, I think. And so now I have people coming to me sometimes and ask me, and that's a good feeling. And that's the kind of thing. Don't forget where you came from. So remember to help those people out when you can. So, but yeah, that was my start, was all that, and then the Boss Hog, and then we started doing it. And of course, we do KCBS. I like to do it more, but we cook a lot of SBN now, Southern Barbecue, which we like, and we did a lot of SCBA for a long time as well. So, but we'll hopefully do about 22 contests this year. I hope so.
So SBN, for those that don't know what SBN is Southern Barbecue Network.
All right.
So South Carolina's really got two. I think SBN actually goes outside South Carolina, but for the most part, South Carolina got 3 sanctioning bodies that compete in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You got the SBN, which is Southern Barbecue Network. You got SCBA, which is the South Carolina Barbecue Association. And you got KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society. I started in SCBA, and I love SCBA. I love downtown USA. And I think it's amazing to see parts of South Carolina that you would never see without doing those contests. And I remember that contest we done there. What's the one named after Battleship?
Not the one the Camden's got one that's
no, that's not it. It's in the middle of the state up there. Good Lord have mercy.
Let's see. I gotta think.
Right there on train tracks.
Oh, you talking about up at Cowpens?
Yes, Cowpens.
Cowpens. Yeah, man. I never forget. I was telling somebody this past weekend because we were out there cooking at the rib throwdown up in Irmo, and we're talking about the train going through, and I was so close to the train in Cowpens. Even they have the rocks up by the rails. I remember the rocks almost spitting up and hitting my trailer. I was so close to the damn train in Cowpens.
Dude, it was a lot of fun. Great contest. But we were parked up right there behind the train, and that train would come through there and blow that horn, and you trying to sleep at night, and
it was loud.
Oh my gosh. I was sitting there going, like, I take for granted anybody who lives by the train tracks, God bless you. That's all I got to say for it, especially by intersection. But
the good thing about SCBA and SBN, but both of them kind of have the same parameter in that for the contest to be held, there has to be a charity that's benefited. So that's how SCBA and SBN work. And so for people who don't know, most of those contests, SBN doesn't do it quite as much. I mean, it's a charity, but all the SCBAs, they provide all the butts. So you get, that's part of your entry fee. You get all the butts. Of course, the deal is you're going to cook those butts, and they may give you a volunteer, and those butts are given out to the public. After the contest, you use yours for the turn-ins, and and they profit from that, where they sell wristbands or little tickets or whatever it may be. SBN's the same way. That most of them, they provide the butts for you. Some of them they don't. It kind of depends on how the contest works, but that's how they make the money, and they raise money for. Gosh, I think SCBA's got one coming up. Boy Scouts in Sumter, they do that one. They have like a hospice down in Beaufort area that SCBA does. SBN's got the same kind of thing. There's I think this past weekend benefited the Chamber of Commerce in Blythewood. So most of these contests are more, like you said, or like your good old stuff in South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina, let's face it, we have more festivals than anybody in the world. So South Carolina has a festival for anything. And a lot of these contests center around sometime, these festivals, which is neat. I mean, they don't have the one at Gaffney anymore. They used to have the Peach Festival up there, and they had a competition up there. So a lot of your festivals, I think you'll find around South Carolina, there's usually a barbecue contest going on. And it's Southern Barbecue Network or, SCBA, South Carolina Barbecue Association. So, but that's a good thing about it. And a lot of times you see volunteers out for them places. So, that's a great thing about barbecue. It can benefit so many different people. And quite honestly, some of these towns, man, it's like the biggest event of the year. You've been to some of these things, man. This is a big deal. It's the biggest thing happening in that town all year. Some of these towns, probably the smaller towns are the ones that have the better contests, quite honestly, because the people come out, and it's a big deal. So yeah, that's the thing I like about them, is that they're a little more laid back. They're not quite as restrictive, I guess, like they have their rules and they're judged very similar, than the KCBS. But the biggest difference to me in those contests is if you're walking toward the table and you're 20 seconds late and they see you coming, you can turn in. They will accept the box. Now, they're not going to let you be 5 minutes late and sit in your trailer and come, knock on the trailer door. But obviously KCBS, the rule's a rule. If you're not there, you're DQ'd. That's it. But these contests, they don't like to see somebody, get, turned away, per se. So that's kind of it, because, a lot of these contests too, are these SCBA and all, a lot of times they have some backyard teams or people don't compete as much. And man, these people just want to turn in and see what they can score, So, yeah.
Now that also translates into KCBS contests in South Carolina. We've got Lawrence and you got Greenwood.
Yep.
Which is probably Greenwood's probably and Lawrence both have probably some of the biggest crowds of barbecue that we've been to in contests. I mean, there would be 30, 40,000 people at Greenwood, and I probably 15,000 or so at Lawrence easy. So I mean, it translates over to those contests.
Yeah, I haven't been to one of Lawrence. Obviously Greenwood, we've been going to that one since about 2010, 2011, and we've been there as well. And everybody knows that's an awesome contest. Those ladies downtown Greenwood. I mean, Charlie was at Baranow. I guess it kind of used to head that up years ago. And then all the ladies now that do that, Julie and so forth. What a contest, cooker friendly. They just do such a great job. But yeah, we're really blessed in South Carolina, the amount of contests we have, for most of us, within a 2.5 hour driving area, you can pretty much from 1st of March to, end of October, there's probably summertime, you don't get as many, but there's a contest within probably an hour and a half of you every weekend in that time frame.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a case nowadays, but somebody said it used to be that South Carolina had more barbecue competitions between all 3 sanctioned bodies than anybody else in the state, anybody else in the country, because it used to just because you got the 3 sanctioned bodies. I mean, you'll have 50, 60 contests.
Yeah,
you're talking about between SCBA, SBN, and KCBS. That's a lot of contests in the area.
Yeah, I think SCBA averages about 30 contests a year, maybe thereabouts, 25, 30. I think some of it, unfortunately, because of COVID, some of these contests, unfortunately, went away. I mean, they lost a couple. SBN has really done a bang-up job. They've got a lot more contests this year. They're probably going to have, I'd say, over 20, probably 20 to 25. Decent amount in the spring, and then they'll have they got a big lineup in the fall. So, there's probably a couple weekends SBN will double up, and I know SCBA has some weekends where they're doubled up. They try not to make them so close, maybe there'll be something up in the up part and there'll be something in the lower part of the state. But yeah, anybody that's wanting to get into barbecue, that's probably a better way to don't do like I did, like an idiot, and go to a KCBS and get your butt handed to you. But it's easier to kind of, even though those, STBA does mainly, obviously butts and ribs. SBN, one thing I like about them is they do butts, ribs, and they do chicken generally. And then for their Team of the Year contest, they do all 4 meats, just like KCBS. The only thing that's different is maybe like Florida, where they don't. There's no garnish, just like SCBA, and turnaround times are an hour at SCBA and SBN as well. There are a couple where they do a 30-minute, very few, but most of them it's an hour, so it's a little more relaxed. But it's kind of hard too if you're going, because we go back and forth, and if you go to an SBN or SCBA, you got an hour turnaround, and they're usually earlier too. So most of our turn-ins are like 9 o'clock butts, 10 o'clock ribs, or some of them are like 9, 10, 11. SBN, or heck, at KCBS you don't even turn in to 12, and then at SBN chicken's your last turn in, KCBS chicken's your first turn in. So it takes, that's the one thing we battle for a long time is getting your timelines down. As you know, timelines are critical. Everybody's, your 2 biggest things probably in barbecue are what your timeline, your recipes, right? I mean, that's what we do.
That's it.
And that's the thing I like about it. It makes it so fun to me. It's always kind of a different challenge each week. If you're going to these different contests, like, oh man, we're going to KCBS now. We got to we got to get our timelines right for this. And then if we're doing the SBN, then man, you get up early on those. I'm gonna tell you what, man, my ribs are going on because everybody knows I'm a little slow guy. So heck, some of those my ribs going on like 5 a.m. So right, no, I see Kathy over there in the chair sleeping, and I'm over there getting ribs ready. So.
By the way, if y'all don't know Chris and Kathy, those two pester each other more than about anybody I know of. So
Hey, we're having
I love
fun.
them. They have a good time, but they will pester each other to death sometimes.
We're not like Gene and Tisa Culver, so don't get us mixed up with them two. I'm not as hard on Kathy as Gene is on Tisa. Kathy won't change the tire for me, but Tisa will change the tire for Gene. So I do. I've seen that. I've been there when that's happened. In fact, so
I'll tell you, man. He's talking about Gene Colbert's from backyards. Backyards. Wait a minute. Backwoods barbecue.
Backwoods.
Sorry, but it is just. You gotta love the man, love him to death. But I'll never ride with him again.
That's a different dude.
We done a contest up there in Asheville, and we were going to go grab something to eat. Was in the Sam's Club at the time, and so we got going to eat. So me and him and Tissa's truck, and there's a slow car in front of him. You know how Gene is driving.
Oh yeah.
And so he went out and just on the side and on the pavement on the edge, and we passed around. And I look up and there's a tunnel, a daggum tunnel. I'm cutting back in there. I got back truck. Said, Gene, I love you. I'll do anything well for you, but I am not riding with you driving again. Yeah,
he's a different animal in that truck. Ain't no doubt about it. What crazy story is we're cooking up in Williamston, South Carolina. They got a neat little contest in a park up there. I can't. It's not Williamston. It's a town right. Okay, Kathy just told me the background. West Pelzer. I think can you believe this? We got Pelzer and West Pelzer. You know, I don't think they got 1,000 people in the town. Anyway, sorry for anybody from Pelzer out there. But we're at this contest, and we're going to go get something neat, and there's hardly anything open. And so we end up going out toward the interstate. I guess that was up toward maybe I-85, I guess. And we go eat at a Waffle House, okay? And then we come back to but before we got there, we're going through West Pelzer, and you've heard about two-way stops, three-way stops. They got a five-way stop there, if you can imagine that. And Gene didn't come to a complete stop, and I'll never forget it. And we got pulled, and he got an unbelievable ticket in West Pelzer, South Carolina, unfortunately. So you ever see Gene, everybody out there ever sees Gene, ask him about the five-way stop in Pelzer, and he will not have good things to say about it. I can tell you that. So, but I was like everybody out there. Everybody's got great stories. That was just one of those crazy stories at a fun little contest in Williamston, South Carolina. So,
yeah, that was it's a good contest out there though. But you're right, West Pelzer's get off on the little back roads yonder. It can be tight, and plus to go across that dam. That little sharp 9-degree turn to get across that dam. That's pretty crazy pulling a trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good thing about SBN. They got neat little contests all over the place. SBN as well. That's the thing I enjoy about them. And, of course, obviously I enjoyed the Recteq thing a couple of years ago. We got doing all the campgrounds. I mean, that was a great thing, I think, with COVID and all. And obviously a lot of the contests were postponed the next year and so forth. But I enjoyed that Recteq trail. That was fun. We got to know a lot of people. That was I really enjoyed that. Meeting a lot of different folks out there.
Yeah, I love the Recteq series, putting them together in the contest and the campgrounds because it was really it was fun times. It was a lot of fun to be able to go out there and do it, and there's a relaxed setting. And the people at the campgrounds, I mean, just people come up to you like, "Holy cow, what y'all got going on?" I mean, that was you start firing up 25 or 30 smokers, running out smoke, and everybody starts waking up. And they were a lot of fun. But again, it was during the COVID times, and we basically had nowhere else to cook. And so we were doing a cash in, cash out scenario, and it was good. But it's hard to compete now with contests that are established that has sponsors and all this other stuff. But that was cookers wanting to cook. And we had Rufus T was a title sponsor and give us trophies and different stuff. But it's hard to bring that back in that type of situation on today's climate. Especially with the cost of everything being as much as it is right now, it's kind of a lot different right now as far as competing and traveling and obligations and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a good fill-in. Everybody wanted to cook, and it was just a good fill-in. Go to Secure Chastain comment. Yeah, I mean, I think Pine Ridge was fun. Dorchester, nice little place down there. I think they've had multiple contests at that location. That's just a cool location with the pond and all right there.
Yep.
But it's it's like anybody. You got certain places that stand out to you. That always stands out to me. That one at Dorchester, the pond and all. That's always fun pulling in there. People are always nice, and I used to love going there. And they'd have the Friday night wing deal. You go in there and eat some wings, have your cold beverage. Looking out on the pond. That was always fun at that one as well.
So that one you either had pet gators or pet mosquitoes.
Yep.
That's what you had at that one. And the mosquitoes that wouldn't bite, good Lord, they love lights.
Well, it's like everything. Yeah, I got a story for everything. So I went down there about 3-4 years ago. I don't remember I think it might have been a Sam's Club qualifier. I can't remember, but I went down a contest down there. No, it wasn't a Sam's Club. It was maybe near Sam's Club. Anyway, Gene was already down there. He said, "Man, you ought to come on down Thursday night." And Kathy didn't get off till Friday. I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll pull it down, trailer down there." So I talked to him on the phone. He said, "Man, you better bring some damn insect stuff." I said, "These mosquitoes are damn crazy." I was like, "Oh, okay." So, I'd already left the house. And so I get down there about 10:30. I think he's already gone to bed in the big old orange trailer over there. And so I back into pulling a spot there, and got to go to the restroom. So I go up to the place out there, kind of the end of the campground there, and I plugged in and I turned my light on my porch. I got back to the porch. There must have been 75 million mosquitoes on my porch. I'm looking. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? But I'm walking, and I don't know if I'm the old guy, so they have these commercials about off, and this guy used to spray his arm and put it in this thing, and none of the insects would get on him. And I'm walking around the porch. I'm like, I'm gonna get eat up alive. And they weren't biting you. So fast forward, so I get up the next day, and guy was walking around. I've been a Shriner. I'm like, man, what is the deal with all these mosquitoes? I've never seen so many. And I think he said, I don't know if it's male or female. He goes, those are female mosquitoes. I'm like, what? Female mosquitoes? What thing you talking about? And I looked it up, and I don't know, somebody can Google it now, but something about the female mosquitoes don't bite. And I don't know if it was the time when they breed or whatever, and all the females coming out, but I'll never forget that. And them things, they just didn't bite though. But man, they were everywhere. I've never seen mosquitoes like that in my life. Never. Crazy.
Dude, and they were, and they would, if you had a light on, they would, whatever they had to do to get to that light.
Oh God, I'm telling you. I turned that light on. I came back on my porch. I'm like, oh my God. I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get in the door, not letting in 1,000 mosquitoes in the damn trailer before I can go to sleep.
It was crazy. Yeah, and the wind would blow the wrong direction on every time. But it's a great location. Like I said, pretty beautiful. You pull out there, you're on a finger out in the middle of the lakes. Yep. Out there in a big lake out there, and had power and stuff. And it was just an awesome contest. We loved that contest. But again, Kevin Merritt's on here. So Kevin said it was male mosquitoes.
Oh, it's a male. My bad, Kevin. So I knew it had to be one or the other. So males don't bite. I should have known the female would be the pesky one. So I knew it. Kathy in the background.
She'll bite you in a minute. But it just went out there in the middle of the lake, and everybody sat off there, and it was just relaxed, great time. The first year I done that contest, it was a KCBS contest, and they had the bands and stuff going over there. You remember that one?
Time? Yep.
I think that was the same time you're talking about, when they had all the bands and stuff playing out there, and we actually reserved that contest that year, and they couldn't get our name right to save our life. Remember that?
That's why I started. Remember, Eli. Called Elite Smokers.
They call me Eli. Every name in the world except Elite Barbecue. It was just craziest thing in the world. And we ended up RGCing it to Redneck Scientific, got the GC on it.
Yep.
But I was like, how do you get this name wrong? It's like 5 letters.
I remember that one too, because I remember you because I always called you Elite, my man, Philip Miles. And I'll never forget, Kathy and I would get ready to turn in pork, and the box was terrible. I was like, oh my God. And we literally just almost took the box and just dumped it out. luckily we had time. I was like, we got to redo the box. It's terrible. I don't know what the hell we've done here. So we go back and redo the box. And it looks okay. And so, I mean, it's KCBS. I mean, it's good teams there, obviously. You know, like, hell, we ain't got a chance in hell, man, with Port. I mean, we got first in Port. I never get it after redoing the box. And I think we ended up getting third. But there was some kind of weird thing about scoring. There was like 4 or 5 teams that tied or something. And I'm still kind of learning. Because it's probably been, 5, 6 years ago, I'm thinking, that we're there. And we just started cooking a lot more KCBS. And that was the first time I'd met Rusty and got to know him. And was talking to them, and he was so nice and kind of explaining the scoring thing and all, which for anybody out there, I mean, that's a good thing to do as well, as, you know, it's to find a couple of judges that, you know, you can kind of go talk to and learn stuff and all. Cause I've got, just like you folks, I've gotten to know some people and they've been so helpful and good people too. You know, we're fortunate, I think, in this area, a lot of KCBS judges are, you know, we got some nice ones that work this area. So.
Derek's trying to find where he's at. But I mean, that was the thing about it is, and that's kind of we've said this many times on the show, and I want everybody to understand that the family atmosphere of barbecue is the truth about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, just the relationships you make in this is, I mean, it is crazy how strong of bonds you have with just friendships and stuff and relationships. I mean, it's truly just it's mind blowing and stuff. So, the question for you. Yeah, the fellowship's amazing. So, how did you get started? Like, what's your first? Did you grow up cooking with your family, or? No,
it's weird. My dad owned grocery stores, so I grew up in the grocery business. My dad had 3 grocery stores at one time in Aiken. Well, he's Red and White years ago, back in the early '60s. Then they changed to Piggly Wiggly in 1972. And so my dad was in it 50 years until he sold the store back in 1993, I think. So I grew up in the old days, honestly, where we had band stampers, you know, the old NCR 5000 cash register, you know, no scanners. Everything came in off of trucks. You know, there was no such thing as a pallet jack. We did everything on rollers. You know, so I grew up, you know, stocking shelves, you know, sweeping floors. You know, I learned how to, and that's kind of, I guess, how it got me into the barbecue part, which was great years ago. I had no idea I'd be doing this, but, you know, I ran a produce department, you know, at several different stores. My dad, I learned a lot about produce. I ran a meat market back in the days that, you know, now they get it in. Most of it's already prepackaged and all, but, you know, we cut up our own chickens. You know, I learned to, you know, we basically had to come in off the hoof, you know, on a hook, you know, in the meat department. So I got a lot of learning from trimming and cutting meat and all, and learned about the cuts of meat and so forth, you know, from my dad in the grocery business. So but my dad didn't do a lot of cooking, man. He was working all the time. My dad worked 70, 80 hours a week, you know, 50 years in grocery business. Honestly, I mean, my dad was a hands-on, you know, type of guy, and that's just how he wanted to do it. But my mom, you know, everybody's mom's a great cook, but my mom was just like unbelievable. I mean, she was ahead of her time. She had, and this was years ago, any kind of equipment, pasta maker. I mean, at that time, she had it, you know, and so she had over 1,500 cookbooks. So she read cookbooks like we would read a book. And she was the kind of person that, you know, I wish I had her around now on the barbecue side, because my mom could like taste stuff and then pick up on the little things that were in there, the spices, or, you know, she had that knack, you know, where she could pick up on taste and flavor profile, stuff like that. And she was just an unbelievable cook. I mean, she loved to do things kind of spicy. And she just cooked everything A to Z though. I mean, you know, they used to have a party on New Year's Eve and have about 4 or 5 couples over, and my mom would pick a nationality, and maybe Chinese, maybe Japanese, Korean, whatever. And she would cook everything from the start to the appetizers, even have the liqueurs to the after dinner drinks. Everything would be in that nationality. And they had a friend. My parents had their best friends, that guy named Bobby Cook, and he would do the prayer in that language. And of course, a lot of times he didn't actually know the damn language. You know, he'd get about halfway through and start making up the craziest gibberish you ever heard. And they'd understand he was kidding around. Everybody start bust out laughing. But they had I was a little guy at the time, and I was always, you know, there at the house, and that was always fun. And I guess, that's kind of how I got the love for food and all, was being around the grocery business, being around my mom cooking. And then everybody knows, big Carolina fans, so going to football games, tailgating. And my mom was always the one that brought all the neat things and getting out there and tailgating and all. And that's how the tailgate group, my barbecue came. We used to be Ultimate Tailgaters, and that's the tailgate group for many years. And then I put the BBQ on it when we started doing this, 08, 09 or whatever. That's kind of how it started, I guess, Jason. Really, is like that. Just being around food. My dad in the grocery business, my mom loved to cook. And then, I started, at tailgating, and I started bringing a grill and doing this and doing that. Did competition, now the rest is history, I guess. And now I got smokers, and I got more smokers. I got scents now, and also we got all the equipments and toys, and like a lot of people out there and so forth. So, but hell, I love it. Wouldn't trade it for anything. So,
yeah, I think we are. All of us are probably smoker and grill poor right now.
No doubt about that.
I keep looking. I want one more.
Yeah.
Do I need it? Absolutely not.
No,
but
got to have it though. Got to have it,
gotta
man.
have it.
Got to have it, real.
Just got to have it. But that's just stuff. Now, on a side note, before we start getting to this weekend, your accomplishments and stuff here. So I'm a Clemson fan. Everybody knows that.
God.
And me and Chris get along fine for this. But there's a stat that you do not do many fall barbecue competitions.
Yeah.
For one reason.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to get the jack draw, because I want to see what this is going to happen that day.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting one right here. So,
Yeah,
but anyhow.
Yeah, you talking about what the streak? Kathy, what's the streak? I got to ask Kathy.
461.
So I've been to 461 straight South Carolina football games. Obviously, that's home away bowl game. Streak started in 1984. Last game I missed, Carolina Notre Dame, and the reason I actually missed the game was that's when my dad had a grocery store, and I think my dad was out of town, so the guy was supposed to run the store was out sick, and so I ended up not being able to make the trip, and so I had to stay at the store. And luckily, the market guy that day, true story, was kind enough to watch the store. I went home, watched the game. We beat Notre Dame 36-32. And this is back when, there's no internet, no cell phone. This is 1984. And this was back when a team had a big win. It could be South Carolina, Clemson, or I'm sure all schools had this. Everybody went to the airport to welcome the team back. So I never forget, I turned the key on that Piggly Wiggly on York Street at 9 o'clock, grabbed me a 6-pack of Budweiser, and I hopped in my Toyota Celica, and I hauled butt to Columbia, and saw the team come in at the airport. About 10,000 people at the airport, in all honesty. It was unbelievable. But so the next game, obviously, the streak started then. And there's been a couple situations, but probably this past year, strangely enough, was the biggest time where the streak almost was broken. So we're down at the Southern Barbecue Invitational Championship. So they have a Team of the Year championship. And if you qualify, you go cook, and it's usually the best 15 teams, and it's at Monk's Corner. Okay. So I'm always concerned. And, of course, the year before, we were playing at Tennessee. So Kathy, I basically went down and cooked, and we had to cook stuff ahead of time, put it in the Cambro, da-da-da-da-da. And I ended up leaving Monk's Corner 2 years ago at 6 a.m., driving, picking up a friend of mine in Columbia, going to the Carolina game in Knoxville, get our butts whooped, drive back home, and I get back home and see Kathy about 9:30 that night, actually, going Knoxville and back. Kathy gets reserve grand, by the way, at the contest. Did a great job. Which she'd had a better score in chicken, might have won it actually, but she got reserve grand. So anyway, so fast forward to next year, got the date. So the date's perfect. I'm like, oh, it's open date, man. We're set. Hurricane. They delay the contest, so then they move it to first week in November. I'm like, shoot, that's when we played Vanderbilt. Of course, I know Vanderbilt like we're great, but we're gonna, but I don't miss a game. So I'm like, okay, no problem. We're gonna fly. So I'm going to do the contest. I'm going to commit the contest. I'm not going to miss it. I want to cook that contest. Been another contest wouldn't have been this Team of the Year, and we'd won it a couple years ago. I want to try to win it again. Kathy reserved that year before. So anyway, go down, cook everything. Everything's going smooth. Had a pretty good cook. Not great. And in the trailers like 1 o'clock. So I got my tickets booked Southwest Airlines out of Charleston. Okay, perfect. Going to fly into Nashville. And I didn't tell you, when I committed to this, I'm thinking that Kathy's probably going to have to do the turn-ins again. And I'm going to end up driving to Nashville. Well, it ends up being a night game. I'm like, oh, man, perfect. So I get the flights booked. We get into Nashville like 6 o'clock. It's we got about an hour and a half for the kickoff. We're perfect. I got a rental car set up. I got the hotel. I mean, everything. It's just falling. It's perfect. So now we're fast forward back to the day of the contest. It's like 1 o'clock. Get a message on my phone. Like, son of a gun. Kat's like, what's going on? I was like, man, flight is canceled, it looks like, in a massive delay. And I'm like, God. So I call them real quick. And they're like, oh, we can get you into Dallas. And I'm like, this ain't going to work. I said, wait. So I looked at Kathy. I said, maybe it's over. So no. We got to do it. So what the hell does this idiot do? So go talk to the contest guy. So listen, can't say awards. I had a place to park my trailer and all. Everything was perfect. So I talked to a friend of ours, Eric Carpenter. He's like, man, I'm up the interstate a little bit. Just drop the trailer right there. I got power there. I'll watch trailer and everything. You're good. So we're already hooked up, So boom, here we go. Take off. We drive 8.5 hours to Knoxville, Tennessee. Excuse me, I'm sorry, to Nashville, Tennessee. So I won't miss the game. I get there at halftime. And I told Kathy, like, worst thing can happen. We're in between Knoxville and Nashville. I said, here's the worst thing can happen is we're driving to Nashville to Vanderbilt Stadium. No disrespect to Vanderbilt, but, and we're going to be listed on the radio, and my Gamecock's going to be now 14-0. I'm going to be like, what the hell am I doing this for? But we got there and won the game. And it was pretty wild because, honestly, I try not to make a big deal of the street. The street's kind of more of a fun thing. But a lot of people around South Carolina know about the streak. So everybody's always wanted Chris at the game. It's a big thing. And so we get there after the game, and who comes up to me? But the athletic director at Carolina, Ray Channing, we go to the locker room to see the team and all. He's like, what you got here? So he said, I heard about all the stuff going on. I'm like, everybody already knew what was going on. Everybody knew. I saw Coach Beamer. He goes, man, I'm glad you made it. I heard what you had to do and all. So it was cool, But it's those kind of things that I love doing. It wasn't like it was fun driving 8.5 hours, And then the worst thing is, and obviously we win the next day. I got to drive all the way back. And here's the bad news. So guess what? I got to drive right back past exit 22, right up the road here, because I got to drive another 2 hours to go pick up my barbecue trailer, go get up Sunday night and drive it all the way back. And so we get back home about 10:30 Sunday night. So there's the Paul Harvey rest of the story, and the streak is intact.
Streak's intact. So you said something a while ago here about Kathy got an RGC at a contest.
Yeah.
So, but let's back up a minute here. There's a contest in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. We're talking about this weekend.
All right,
K&T barbecue.
Huh?
K&T barbecue.
Yeah, so let me tell y'all a story here. So we were talking about Gene and Tisa earlier, and we're talking about Chris and Kathy. So there's a contest here several years back, probably about 7 years ago now.
2013, I think.
10 years ago. So there's a contest out there, and it was not a sanctioned contest. This is the year that had no sanctioned contest. Yep. And it was basically a free-for-all out there. But the prize pot was what? How much is that prize pot?
First place, $10,000.
The first place, it was like $50,000 payout. It was a crazy contest. And there's probably 100-some teams out there, non-sanctioned contests. And it was basically just a free-for-all. Well, Kathy and Tisa decided they were going to come out here and create their own team and cook the food and turn the food in. As just kind of a Tisa wasn't even there. It was a Labor Day weekend. And I never forget. And this is another crazy story. Carolina played on Thursday night, and it poured rain. About that. We've already heard enough about Carolina.
Well, I know it. So I got my trailer up there, and so I pulled my trailer down there on Friday. Gene's already down there, got me a spot, so I parked beside Gene. And you remember, you had to cook 8 butts because you had to give it had enough for the box. You're right, no judges, but a person from your team was going to be a judge, but I had it figured out where you would not be judging on the same table where supposedly your meat would come through. Anyway, so we're trimming the butts, getting everything ready, and Gene's like comes over to my trailer and goes, So why don't we put another team in? He goes, $150 a piece. I'm like, hell yeah, for $10,000, let's do it. So, and I think about 4 or 5 other teams did the same thing. And so we get another case of butts. And so we decide, like, we're just going to kind of mix our meat in there, and we'll come up with some kind of sauce and all that. So we're like, what are we going to call the team? We're like, Kathy, Tisa. We're like, K&T BBQ. Okay. So now we got it set. So anyway, fast forward. So we get the turn in the next day. I don't know if you remember, it was hotter than 3 hells that next day. And so we get all the stuff turned in, good to go. We're out there. I never forget, I had this little canopy. We're kind of sitting underneath the canopy, and they're going through calling the stuff. I think Gene won like the best sauce, and of course they started calling the top 10. And I didn't get a call. I'm like, son of a gun. So they get to the number 1, first place. And they go, and the winner of $10,000 is K&T BBQ. I looked at Kathy and I'm like, who in the hell is that? I'm like, oh shit, we just won $10,000, man. True story. I never forget it. Unbelievable. And the rest of the story is, so fast forward, they had a contest in Lake City about 3 years ago. And so I cooked by myself, and I had Scott Carter help me. Gene cooked by himself, and then Kathy and Tisa cooked out of their own trailer. So I hate to tell you again, Carolina was playing. So I go to the Carolina game. It's a noon kickoff. It's raining. I go to the game. I get my stuff turned in. Somebody stays in my trailer to hand out my meat. We go to Columbia and lose. Coming back, they've already had to move awards up because of the rain. I called Gene up, and he goes, "You ain't gonna believe it." Like everybody, we're always kidding around with each other. He goes, and guess what? The grand prize was again $10,000 at this contest. They won the son of a bitch again. I'm sorry, they won it again. He said that. I'm like, Gene, ain't no damn way. They ain't won. He goes, okay, they won it. They won it. I'm like, my God. So we got there, and strange enough, they won it. Gene got first in ribs, and I got second in ribs, actually. But so yeah, that we actually talked about it at the contest this weekend. I said, I'm tired of hearing about K&T BBQ. Tired about it. They're retired. They've won 20,000. They're done. Okay. That's it.
Kathy, you need to get you a shirt and says K&T BBQ and wear that from now on every barbecue competition you'll go to.
Jason, do not enable her. Do not enable her. Okay.
Michelle, we need to buy a K&T BBQ shirt for Kathy. We need to buy them a shirt. They need a shirt. We're going to totally buy that shirt.
But it's pretty wild, though. They cooked twice, and the grand prize just happened to be $10,000 both times. And not that crazy, in all seriousness. I mean, in fact, when they won the one in Myrtle Beach, we're calling Tisa. We're like, Tisa, we just won $10,000. No, y'all didn't. No, because Gene always mess with her. And we had to damn take a picture of the check. We're like, she's like, oh my God, I won $2,000. Yeah, I mean, you know what? But that's what makes this crazy thing of barbecue so much fun. Is we were telling the story this past weekend up in I see somebody said I'd buy. Listen, nobody buy the shirts, okay? I don't want to hear nothing about no K&T shirts now. What you done started, Jason? God almighty knows.
Oh, did y'all have a logo, or is it just K&T?
No, they have no logo. It'd probably be a $10,000 bill, probably.
Oh, we're totally making shirts for that, y'all. Y'all heard it here first, by the way. Next time we see.
That's a crazy story, isn't it? Who would have thought?
Oh, man, we've had some wild stories in barbecue.
No doubt about it.
We've had it's been an awesome time. We're blessed to share it with everybody, but it is now. So did K&T win this past weekend?
No, they did not compete.
So they are you sure you wasn't letting them do it? You just took all the glory?
I'm positive.
Are you sure? You asked. Oh, we got a logo coming. Oh, this is gonna be good. We got a logo coming and everything.
I mean, what are the chances? Seriously, they cooked in 2 contests and one and both. Well, theoretically, that was Gene and I in the first one, but it was K&T BBQ. It was their name. So
now you're trying to take all the credit for you, man. That ain't nice.
But the crazy thing about it is they came back and they did win the damn thing. I mean, that's the thing about it. We had nothing to do with it, Gene and I, the second one, 0.
Oh, crazy. That batting average is pretty good there.
Yeah, 2-0, 20,000. That's pretty. That's pretty good, man. Retire and hang it up. I don't think anybody can duplicate that. Honestly, nah.
We do need that. He light.
I mean, Jason Singletary and I were cutting up about that this past weekend, and I don't know what brought it on. I told that story again. I was like, oh my god, because he was there. Singletary was at that one in Lake City that time, not Myrtle Beach, but Lake City. So, oh yeah, oh god,
that's crazy. Lord have mercy. So, talking about Mom. All right, the backstory here. So, talk about the Doko Ribfest, and so. But before we kind of get into you winning the contest, not trying to hold you off on that here, Doko was a barbecue team that was cooking for a long time and decided to kind of go towards the restaurant side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's been successful with restaurant, but so that's kind of how he had a passion for barbecue. And I ain't talked to him in a little while. I need to call him up.
Tony Kraut.
Tony, I ain't talked with Tony in God, years. But, so he started doing, but he put together this rib contest.
Yep.
So tell us about the rib contest.
Yeah, and I maybe somebody can Google this, but Doko actually is something synonymous with like Blythewood. There's a lot of stuff up there named Doko. I don't know what the reason for it is, but that's where he got the word Doko for his team name. And then when you actually go to Blythewood, you see other stuff named Doko. So I don't know what the thing is, but anyway, he started the rib thing. Jason, I think this was the fourth year. I think I didn't cook it the first year. I cooked it in the second year. We missed it last year, and then with a cater job and cooked it in this year. But I know the last couple of years, maybe 3 years. I mean, they had 10,000 pounds of ribs this year. So and it's a neat contest, because it's like a lot of contests. There's always neat ways how things are done. This one benefits Blythewood Chamber of Commerce, but they also have a backyard division. They have a veterans division. Got a bunch of Army, Navy, whatever guys get together and form a team, which is cool. I cooked beside some guys 2 years ago, and real nice guys. And then I have a professional division, which is sanctioned by the SBM. But man, the weather last year was terrible. The weather this year was beautiful. I don't know how many thousands of people I had out there, but I figured it up. 10,000 pounds of ribs basically is about 40,000 ribs. And there wasn't a rib left, I can tell you that. I mean, the crowds were great. It's a big music festival. It's done at a amphitheater there, a little park, and very, very nice. They got a bunch of food trucks. They had a Bloody Mary contest Saturday morning. I mean, it was unbelievable things and all, but just a fun contest. You only got one meet, and it's kind of weird. It was a later turn in, so 1 o'clock for backyard, 2 o'clock veterans, and 3 o'clock pro, which is kind of different. We used to turn in ribs a lot earlier than that. But and the deal was you had to cook at least a case of ribs, which was I think for us was 15 racks, and some of the other teams were gracious enough to to cook maybe a couple of cases. They had some. So there was a lot of with the backyard. A lot of people had big pull behinds, so they were able to cook more ribs. And then Tony actually had one he borrowed, and I think somebody else had one that I think he rented too. I think it was some Southern Pride. So they had 4 of those going, loaded down with ribs Friday night, just so they could cook, all those. I mean, there were some teams cooked 3 and 4 cases of ribs.
Oh man!
But I mean, the people were. I mean, it just it was great weather. Like I said, it's a great contest. It's a lot of fun, and I always enjoy it. I mean, we had a good time 2 years ago, and a good time this year, and I look forward to going back next year, obviously. So,
hey. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of ribs.
Yeah,
I mean that's a lot of ribs. The Southern Pride's can turn them loose though, man. There's some like cooking for my restaurants and stuff. That Southern Pride, it's gonna be a jam up smoker with that. Yeah, Lewis here. They got the new grills dropping Monday. I think they're gonna be some pretty cool. They're gonna be some pretty interesting stuff coming out here. I think these gonna be some probably a little smaller ones. They got it, but yeah, Recteq's absolutely amazing.
Good
so
stuff.
I thought this is what it was. I think Doko is what the area was called in Native American, if I remember Tony telling me correctly.
See David Graham saying that, yeah.
So I mean, that's what I think it was whenever we talked about it a while back with what he was telling me years ago, which has been a long time. That, I mean, we didn't do it this year, which we had, like I said, been working like crazy lately, but it was a good contest. I know Tony called me back when we started doing the Recteq series because I think his first one was right there during the COVID start in 2019.
It was actually, because you know what? I was going to go cook that one. And well, actually, I was going to cook in Darlington, and that contest got canceled. And then y'all end up going to Dorchester and doing kind of like a, money in, money out. And I think Tony was already full, and I ended up going to cooking at SCBA somewhere up in South Carolina. I went and did that. That's when COVID kind of started, unfortunately. Exactly right. And that was the first year that they had it. But yeah, they always have. I think this year it was somewhere between 60 and 70 teams. So it's a lot of folks out there. They got a nice area to do it, which is good. Obviously, everybody knows it works out a lot better when you got plenty of space and plenty of places for people to. I just don't know where all the public parked. I know that because, man, there was unbelievable amount of people, which is obviously good. When you got a big fundraiser, you like to see a lot of people out there. So,
yeah. Yeah, Dean, that was a huge Recteq they showed on that thing. I've never seen that one before, but that was a big old fella on there. So you won the contest.
I did.
And we was talking a little bit before the show. It was one of the things, like you said, you will put the best ribs in the box.
Yep.
I think that's something that I think a lot of times, and we were talking about a little earlier, that we're always focused on appearance. And the appearance is very important. I'm not going to take anything away from it. But you need to put in your best in the box. And I think you kind of just made that decision this weekend, and it truly kind of paid off for you.
Yeah, it's when we were talking about it on the phone earlier. It's kind of, basically I usually cook 4 racks of ribs, probably like a lot of people, SBN, KCBS, whatever. And this one I thought, well, I mean, they're giving us the ribs, and so I said, I'm going to do 6. So I decided to do 6 racks. And then, so I had the other ones, the other 9 racks I cooked for the public. And the public's going to start coming in about 11 o'clock. So I put them on earlier, and to make sure I had them ready and all. So we started serving the public. You know how that goes. I mean, people come out, but we had a lot of people come out and like, man, I love your ribs. I'm like, and I tasted one. I'm like, this came out pretty good. And I kind of did a little different rub on it. I'm like, God, I really like these. So everything went good and all. And I thought my rib cook went well. And then get ready for turning. I started cutting up the ones I had for turning. I'm like, God, I didn't like the way they were cut. And I was like, it's something just didn't feel right. I mean, like a lot of people, you cook stuff enough. And when you're in that turning process, you kind of got that feeling. And like, God, and I got the last 2 and I was like, yeah, this is a little better. Okay, we'll see. So I told Kathy, I said, well, I said, we're doing the mumbo jumbo box. So, because, a lot of times I'm always about, you have a couple of racks, and like Kathy, always the taste tester, and does a great job, and so we were like, oh, that rack looks good. We take those 3, 4 right there and 3 or 4 right there, and boom, they go in the box. So I'm like, no, that day. I said, so I went through and actually kind of looking at them, examining the ribs and everything, and I went and picked what I thought. Of course, SBN, you got to turn in 8. You got to have at least 8 samples. So I went and picked my 8 samples. And I put them in the box, and it was not the prettiest looking box. I mean, it looked pretty good, but it wasn't like sometimes you got those ribs that just line up and just look perfect in there. And I'm like, okay. And so I sent it off. And I thought, man, because I finished second 2 years ago, and I've always been kind of known for ribs. I'm like, I want to win this thing. And as I sent them off, like, oh man, I kind of hate that. So then I had a pan sitting in there, covered up with some ribs I'd forgotten about, and because we're sending them out there, Kathy, to hand out and all. I'm like, damn, there's some of the ribs. So I went and grabbed one of them. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty good. A lot of times we don't think about it, but after a rib sits up, or maybe one you put in the box, or the one you may have eaten was not as good than one. So anyway, I was like, damn, I hope the other ones are like that. So maybe we got a chance. So anyway, yeah, it's like anytime you go to the wards, and I told Kathy, I looked over and I said, we got a chance at 5th, 4th, or 3rd. Maybe, I had to call top 5. I said, maybe we'll get a call. And so then they got past 3rd, and I was like, well, oh well. Been fun, fun contest and all. And of course, then they get the number 1 and like Ultimate Tailgaters. I'm like, holy smokes. No mumbo jumbo mocks work, man.
So let me ask you a question about ribs and to get your feeling on ribs. So you do more of a low and slow cook with ribs.
Yep.
Do you feel like that allows your ribs to have a little bit more of a lag time before they get tough? because I think sometimes at hot and fast, I think they tighten up really quick if you're not careful with them.
Well, I mean, I'm about 250, maybe 260, because I cook in the deep south, so mine are cooking more toward the top. So I think even it's maybe run a little hotter than what I'm thinking, but somewhere around 250. So yeah, I mean, I like to hold mine too. I like to put on the camera and let them sit a little bit. It's what I do. I know everybody's got their techniques and all. I don't know, but that's what I like to do. Is I like to hold mine and let them sit a little bit. And that's what we did Saturday. That's kind of a little technique thing we changed a while back, and it seems to be kind of helping out. But I hadn't really same rubs, same sauce, and my dad loved ribs, so I got my nickname Juts Ribs, because I never forget one time I made ribs for my dad a long time ago when I started making this sauce I make now that I haven't really changed hardly any, just a little tweak. I never forget. He looked at me and he goes, "Christopher," and it's before he passed away. It's been probably 10 years ago. That's the best ribs I ever had in my life. And so I nicknamed my ribs now Juts Ribs after my dad, and it's the sauce I use. And that's pretty much the sauce I still use, actually. I mean, I may tweak it just a tad, but it's still the same stuff. Same sauces come out like anybody. You kind of make a doctor. So, but yeah, I kind of let mine sit a little bit, quite honestly, in the foil, obviously. Sometimes I may vent it, sometimes not. Just kind of depends on when I pulled them. Sometimes I get a little scared that I maybe overcooked them, so I try to be, kind of wary of that. But yeah, we'll let them sit a little bit generally.
Yeah, I like to put mine in the Cambro, in kind of a little bit room temperature. I mean, not room temperature, a little bit warm Cambro.
Yep.
I like to take mine out and put them in the Cambro and just let them sit for about an hour. I just think it kind of helps them just calm down, because practicing I done at the house, I put them on the counter and they just tighten up so much.
Yep.
And if I let them sit in there, now put the sauce back on, put it back on the smoker to set the sauce on it. It doesn't dry out quite as much. Now, I am the fan of setting the sauce and slicing them. Every time I've done it the other way, I've just never been consistent with that for me. I know a lot of guys do it and it's been successful with it, so they know a lot more than I do, but I always just like to set my sauce, then slice them, then brush them, then turn them in. And that's kind of the way we've been doing it. But I also think that sometimes ribs like to be cooked a little bit lower temperature.
Yeah.
I feel like they do it now. I'm saying that with the knowledge that there's some very successful guys out there that do it a lot hotter and a lot faster than I do. And I'm never going to say that I'm right. I'm just saying that's for me, because some of the guys can blow my socks off with ribs, and for sure.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your cooker and all, but I always, people that are just starting out come up and ask me like this, and man, whatever you feel comfortable with, just get good at it and do it well. I mean, that's what I always believe in. I mean, if you feel like maybe your cooker runs better at 290 or 300, or wherever your cooker runs at, and you feel comfortable, and that's where you ought to cook at. For me, the deep south and where I'm comfortable cooking is 250. That's just what I like. And but I'm the same way. See, mine go on the camera and sit. Hopefully about 30 minutes usually is what we try to let them sit. And then I used to really bring them out. I used to go back and try to set some sauce and build a little bit of layer. But now I don't do it very pretty much. Once they come out of the camera, ours are we put the sauce on there, and they may go on the smoker for a couple minutes, set sauce, but then it's in the box and gone. So ready to go.
Now I will add on one thing about this. If you're thinking about cooking on Recteq, because I know some guys here got Recteq, and I've done our videos on it and stuff here, I will kind of mention one thing about temperature. If you're cooking at 250 degrees, that's kind of a lower and slower temperature. It's going to have a window to be done here. Okay. If you're doing it at 325, your window to be done is going to be here.
Yep.
So there's by a lower and slower temperature, what you do is a little bit more room for air, because you'll have a little bit more time to be able to catch it. If you're doing more of a hot and fast, it's going to shrink. The hotter you cook it, it's going to shrink the time down to be done. And so it's just something to kind of keep in back of your mind if you want to do it at. I would always suggest anybody start low and slow.
Yep.
You can always crank it up there and speed it up, but kind of start low and slow and then learn that process and move up. But again, competitions depending on your cooker. You're doing cans, Recteq, deep south, or what. I mean, that's definitely just going to be thought process.
I've always had a lot of respect, man, for people there's a lot of great cookers out there, obviously Teams, but I always had a lot of respect for these guys, or they're cooking on these cans, or you see some of these contests, the needles up, cook at 300. Because I don't know, maybe some people that don't cook a lot or don't have a lot of understanding, I don't think they realize how good these teams are, how good you have to be when you're cooking at that kind of temperature. Like you said, your margin of error is much less. So these guys and ladies are out there winning, cooking at that. Man, they're really good at it. I mean, it's a lot of people see these videos and all and stuff that maybe don't cook as a lot. Oh, I'm gonna start doing it. Trust me, man. It's not as easy as it sounds. And it's a neat technique, but you got to get good at it. So you're exactly right. People out there listening maybe don't cook a lot or getting into it. I mean, it's a lot easier to start low and slow and then get good at that. And that's why I don't cook hot and fast, man. I'm still trying to get good at low and slow. I can't do hot and fast, man. That's too good for me.
Dean, to talk about your comment right here about fall to bone ribs. So if you're doing competition, and this crosses all Saints Boys competition, what they're looking for is to have the bite marks in the ribs. If you watch the video we put out Sunday, it'll show you the bite marks. And that's kind of what they're looking for when they say competition. They want that bite marks in there. Now, if you're feeding the family and you're trying to do a lot of ribs, that's going to be very hard to maintain that level of consistency.
Yep.
Because you're going to do it and then it's going to be fine. But if it stays on the table for 30 minutes too long, being sliced up, it's going to tighten up. And then somebody's going to try to keep it warm and reheat it. And so what you'll end up doing, you'll basically be cooking it, overcooking it, undercooking it. It'll go back and forth a little bit. And that's why I tend to have restaurants and have catering jobs that'll be fall to bones, because I can turn you 6. If you tell me you're going to eat at 6:15, I can give you 6 bite through bones. No problem. But if you tell me it's 6:15 and half people don't eat till 7:15, I can't. That's hard to control that window right there. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever I'm cooking for a competition, I want to bite through ribs. I want to have to leave my teeth marks in there.
Yep.
But whenever I'm at a restaurant or I've got something like that, I'm gonna give them a little more leniency, just because I know what they're going through to make that happen.
Yep.
And I just think that's what it is. 300 straight up needles, Joseph. 5 minutes can change the whole world. You got that right in cooking. Especially you start doing 300. I mean, you start doing Donnie Bray told us in the class one time, and he was cooking at 295, and he was telling something. They said you go up 1 degree every 3 minutes. And that's what he was teaching that class. I think it was pork. He said right there at the end, he said you will increase by 1 degree every 5 minutes. But now when you do 250, it might be 1 degree every 5 minutes. And so that can be a big difference there. What we got right here?
Absolutely.
Barbecue. Yep. That's a very, very, very important comment right there. If it tastes good cold, it's a winner.
Yep.
Because other than chicken, most time it's going to be cold. And there's a correct spelling here by Joseph. Thank you.
There you go. I was wondering if saying it to the barbecue hood.
So I will say that this is going to be something as far as your comfort level. Our competitions right now, I'm running 3 pellet smoker. I'm running 3 drums and a pellet smoker. I personally like the pork off of the pellet smoker better than I do off of the drums. I think that pork, for me, pork likes to have a little bit lower and slower cook for me. Again, the guys out there has been very, very successful going the other directions. I'm not saying anything that I'm right and they're wrong. For me, I like a slower cooked pork. I think when I do that, my window of margin again is going to be a very bigger window, and I can hit that. When you start getting pork, you start getting really tight in there. There's so many different muscles in there. It can be undercooked in one area and blown out in the other area. So I think a lower and slower for myself. Chicken. I like the chickens on the drum. I like the flavor it gives on the drum. I think it gives a really good flavor for that. So I would say I would prefer the chicken right now on the drum. Ribs, 6 1/2 does the other. I don't necessarily think there's that big a difference between the two of them. If you want to do more of a kind of a controlled cook, it's going to be a little more lower and slower. I think the Recteq does better. The Gateway drum, they want to run 300 degrees.
Yep.
They truly want to run 300 degrees. And so when you try to do something different than that, I think that kind of makes it a challenge to chase it sometimes. I think and I would say brisket. I like the brisket flavor from the drum. Now, perfect world, you get the flavor on the drum, you wrap it up, you put it in the pellet smoker, and you have a maintained cook. That's a perfect world. And same thing with the deep south gravity smokers and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I like the chicken on the drum. Ever since I got the drum for you, I mean, I don't. We cooked in the drum every time, And the problem for me is just having one drum. Still kind of a little bit better with the temperature management, because it's amazing how the little, usually like about 10 minutes behind, make an adjustment, and it don't take much either. So it's been a little bit more of a learning curve for me, but I think I've got a pretty good handle on it now, as opposed to running a guru or whatever on a deep south. I mean, it's kind of almost like a pellet. You set it, forget it. But man, those drums. But once you learn it, but you're right though, man. Those things, they love 300. I mean, that's where they're if you're trying to run it at a different temp, and I think that's where people can run into problems when they're trying to recreate the wheel. I mean, that thing likes 300, run at 300. It's like deep south. I think they mainly low and slow, and you really try to get up about 275. Just not workable. I mean, that's about as hard as I'll push mine. But I love 250. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. One of the biggest thing is what your grill. Find out what your grill's comfortable cooking at.
Yep.
What it's comfortable cooking at, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain that temperature. So if you're trying to get it to go more or do less than it's going to do, it's going to drive you crazy.
Yep.
So, and I will say this: sometimes some lids on them gateway drums sit different than the other ones. I had this drum that loves 300 degrees. This drum might love 315 degrees, and you got to start playing with that, because it's a fact. That's just the way things work. Temperature. Well, to start with, I'm gonna say I don't cook my ribs by temperature. However, what I found for myself is, when I hit 208, now I'm gonna start going by the break line. I'm gonna be able to pick it up, and I start seeing it break on top. That's when I know they're ready to come off the smoker and rest. Chris?
Yeah, I do a lot by feel, but I do temp them. But I'm kind of about 207, maybe 209 at the most. Kind of depends on what, and I think it also determines too where you're temping them at. I think a lot of people got to be careful. Make sure you're not hitting the bone. Make sure, what are you going at the end? You're in the middle, because it will be different temperatures on that thing too. I've learned. So, I do a little barbecue class for one of our sponsors over in Augusta, and I always tell that, obviously a lot of guys probably listening in, y'all probably know this, but I'm like, sometimes people forget the smallest things. Sometimes they make the biggest difference. We have these $100 ThermoWorks, thermal pins that do great, but just don't go up there and stick it in there and not pay. I mean, where are you putting it in at? And make sure if that rib is that much and which one you're going into and all. So I mean, it's going to give you good. It's going to give you good info, but you got to put it in the right spot and all too. Which I know some people don't think about that. Don't cook a lot, but man, it makes a difference. It really does. I mean, that's don't forget that. I mean, you got to. I tip mine a couple different spots where I'm looking personally, but I like the feel too. I like that bend test, see where it's at.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. But do I put I do not put a water pan in for chicken. I do everything else, but I do not do it for chicken. But a chicken, that's the only thing going in that chicken drum is chicken. Nothing else will go in that drum. When that drum is designed, a brand new drum for me, it's going to be my chicken drum, because it doesn't need anything else in there, but it will make a difference now if you start mixing in the different flavors and stuff in it. So all I put in that drum is that. Now I do put a diffuser pan in there, great in mine. Kind of helps even it out
on the chicken.
On the chicken,
yeah.
Now the K4L drum, good Lord, K4L drum, my mind just went blank. That one's got that vortex inside it. And so what it does, the heat's come up here and it makes it spin in a circle. So again, I don't need a deflector in there, but that drum will cook at a different temperature and different techniques than the gateway drum will. So I mean, again, always learn your smokers. It will make a difference in that. Listen, Mark Wetherall was saying the other night, he cooks chicken, and Kerry cooked chicken on his 590s and has been very successful with it. So I'm not. I just haven't been able to get the consistency I'm looking for with mine. I don't have a 5.9. I got 1250, but I like the pork on it. Yeah, we do that. Good stuff. Deep South to 350.
Wow. It'll do it.
It'll get there.
Yep.
It will definitely get there. But again, just play with whatever, like I said, you feel comfortable with. If it's lower and slower, cook it lower and slower.
Absolutely.
Hot and fast, do it. But you also got, like I said, what your smokers feel comfortable doing. The Recteq got controls on it, so you can tell it what to do, and you ain't gonna have to worry about it. Pellet smokers, you can tell it in there. The Deep South with the Gurus and stuff on there, you can tell it what you want it to do, and it'll stay there. Now, at the same time, though, if it wants to do something other than it's easier to run at this range, that's where I would kind of focus on where it likes to be at. One other thing here, Derek was going to come on tonight, but I think he's got tied in traffic. Anybody out there competing that's looking for another contest to sign up on, check out SwampFest. It's at the end of this month. I think they got 3 or 4 spots left. It's going to be a lot of fun out there. I know Derek knows I put on a good contest, but check that contest right there.
We're going to dance. Wow, that'll be good.
Yep. Y'all going down there?
We'll actually be in we're at an SBN contest in Somerville, South Carolina. I think that's when they have the Flower Festival or something. You know, we're talking about festivals. Hell, they got a festival in Somerville. So yeah, neat little contest.
Festival, don't they?
Yep. Yeah, neat little contest down in Somerville with I think the Shriners down there run that one.
Yep. It is, but yeah. Chris, appreciate you being on the show tonight.
Yeah, man. Had a great time.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all showing up and watching us. Do us a favor. Like, subscribe to the channels, share this with your friends and family, and we'll be back next week for another show.
Let the smoke roll. See you guys.
See y'all.